Hello everyone! أهلا وسهلا بطلاب الصف الخامس الابتدائي with the science lessons تحت رعاية وإشراف وزارة التربية والتعليم. Today we're gonna make a general revision. هنعمل revision النهاردة عن كل lessons اللي already خدتوها عن Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3. So let's start our revision. So let's start our general revision with unit number 1. هنبدأ دلوقتي ب unit number 1. هناخد lesson 1 بعد كده lesson 2. lesson 1 في unit 1 which is the friction force. أول حاجة الفريكشن. طب أول حاجة الفريكشن يبقى لازم أول حاجة نفتكر ال definition of the friction force. طيب يعني إيه friction؟ Friction force it's the force between the two surfaces in contact. The force between two surfaces in contact and acts in the opposite direction to the direction of the motion and causes the object to slow down and stop. طيب ده كده definition of the friction force. Now عندنا 3 different types of the friction. What are the different types of friction? عندنا friction لما بيكون solid with solid. Friction between solid objects. Number 2, friction between solid objects and air. Number 3, friction between solid objects and water. Friction ما بين الsolid ما بين air والwater. طيب تعالوا دلوقتي نفتكر أول واحدة واللي هي friction between solid objects. إيه الفاكتورز اللي بتأثر عليها؟ طب يبقى إيه الفاكتورز اللي بتأثر على friction force؟ We have 3 factors that affecting the friction force. Number 1, the type of the surface material. Type of surface material اتفقنا إن هي smooth أو rough. وعرفنا ان friction force increases between the rough surfaces and decreases between smooth surfaces. تاني factor which is the speed of the body. Speed of the body اتفقنا عندنا هنا ان في direct relation. So when the object move in a high speed, so the friction increases. ولو in a low speed أو ال speed decreases يبقى friction برضو decreases. طيب what about the third factor? The third factor that affecting the friction force which is the surface area of the moving object. Surface area اتفقنا when the surface area increases the friction force increases and when the surface area decreases also the friction force decreases. يبقى احنا كده افتكرنا the factors that affecting on the friction force. طب تعالوا دلوقتي نفتكر the friction between solid objects and air واللي كان اسمها it was called the air resistance. طيب يعني air resistance هي type of friction force resulting from the movement of an object through air. object بيتحرك في الاير يبقى في air resistance. اتفقنا ان دايما الفريكشن بتكون in opposite direction يبقى برضو air resistance in opposite direction to the direction of the motion. طيب what are the factors that affecting all the air resistance? 2 factors which are the speed and the surface area. The speed of the body, when the speed increases the air resistance increases. And when the speed decreases, the air resistance also decreases. طب والsurface area؟ surface area نفس الكلام لأن في direct relation. ومنها أخذنا ال streamline shape. ليه الروكيتس والترينز والنيو كارز والإيركرافتس حتى البيرد عندهم streamline shape. ليه عندهم streamline shape؟ To decrease surface area, so the air resistance decreases and then the speed increase. طيب ده كده بالنسبة للfactors of the air resistance. خدنا كمان الباراشوتست. The parachutists open the parachute to land safely. ليه بيفتح الباراشوت؟ To increase surface area, so to increase the air resistance and then the landing speed decreases. طيب تالت type من الفريكشن which is the friction between solid objects and water which called the water resistance. Water resistance كانت يعني ايه؟ Type of friction force resulting from the movement of an object through water. زي الدولفينز والفيش والشيبس. واتفقنا ان كلهم عندهم streamline shape برضو عشان يقللوا السيرفيس اريا فيقللوا الووتر ريزيستنس so the speed increase. والفاكتورز اللي بتأثر على الووتر ريزيستنس زي الاير ريزيستنس بالظبط which are the speed and the surface area. طيب كده نكون خلصنا الريفيجن على lesson number 1 in unit 1. طب lesson 2 in unit 1. lesson 2 which is the applications of friction. applications of friction. طيب applications of friction احنا خدنا بس حاجتين فيها. خدنا the advantages of the friction force and the disadvantages of the friction force. طب تعالوا نفتكرهم سوا ونعرف الفرق. اتفقنا ال advantages هي ال benefits الحاجات الكويسة اللي جاية بسبب الفريكشن وال disadvantages هي ايه؟ الأضرار. طب what are the advantages of the friction force? The advantages of the friction force خدنا 6 examples. Number 1, help the car to move forward. Number 2, car brakes. بنستخدم الcar brakes ليه؟ To slow down or stop the car. Number 3, enables us to control the car speed and to change its direction. Number 4, enables us to walk. احنا بنمشي بسبب الفريكشن ما بين our shoes and the ground. Number 5, lighting up a match. Number 6, helps us to catch and hold objects. ومن غير الفريكشن فورس أي object هيعمل إيدينا. طيب the disadvantages of the friction force هي ايه؟ الحاجات اللي تعتبر أضرار بسبب الفريكشن. طب كان ايه؟ اتفقنا ان الانترنال موفينج بارتس دايما بيبقى فيه فريكشن والفريكشن بيزيد فبيزود التمبريتشر. فايه اللي بيحصل؟ نمبر 1 damage of machine. طيب ايه تاني؟ and loss of money. كنتيجة يعني بيحصل damage للماشين برضو بيحصل loss of the money or waste of the money. يبقى احنا دلوقتي عرفنا ال advantages and the disadvantages of the friction force. طيب يبقى كده lesson 2 خلص. دلوقتي unit 1 كان فيه ايه؟ unit 1 كان فيه friction force. افتكرنا يعني ايه friction force، عرفنا ال 3 factors او ال 3 types of the friction ما بين ال solids او ال air او ال water، وعرفنا الفاكتورز بتأثر على كل واحدة فيهم، وافتكرنا ال air resistance وال water resistance. بعد كده lesson 2 واللي فيه ال applications، وافتكرنا ال advantages and the disadvantages of the friction force. طب دلوقتي unit number 2. Unit 2 فيه 2 lessons. lesson 1 which is the circulatory system and circulation. طب نركز بقى كويس في الجزء ده. Circulatory system and circulation. أول حاجة it consists of إيه؟ consists of 3 parts: heart, blood vessels and blood. طب قبل ما نقول ال structure تعالوا نفتكر ال function of the circulatory system. Circulatory system كانت بتعمل إيه؟ 3 حاجات. Number 1 transport oxygen, digested food and water to all the body cells. Number 2 transport wastes to special organs to get rid of them. Number 3 keeps the body healthy. طب ده كده بالنسبة للفانكشن. طب what about the structure؟ مكون من إيه؟ It consists of the heart, blood vessels and blood. The heart زي ما اتفقنا إن هو it consists of how many chambers؟ 4 chambers. ومقسوم to 2 sides بسبب الوول الموجود في النص. وما بين كل atrium و ventricle في valve. اتفقنا إن upper atrium اسمه atrium، ال upper chamber اسمه atrium وال lower chamber اسمه ventricle. طيب what about the blood vessels؟ عرفنا إن ال blood vessels they are 3 types: arteries, veins and blood capillaries. ال arteries هي ال blood vessels اللي بتعمل إيه؟ which carry the blood from the heart to all the body parts. طب ال veins العكس carries blood from the body parts to the heart. وال blood capillaries تعمل connect ما بين ال arteries and the veins. كمان blood capillaries عندها very thin wall to allow blood to carry oxygen and digested food to the body cells and carry the wastes and carbon dioxide out of the cells. يبقى احنا كده عرفنا ال blood vessels. طب بعد ال blood vessels the blood. The blood فيه 4 components of the blood: red blood cells, white blood cells, blood platelets and plasma. Red blood cells the cells without nuclei وال white with different forms of nuclei. طب red blood cells كانت بتعمل ايه؟ carry oxygen and carbon dioxide. وال white blood cells defend the body هي اللي بتحمي جسمنا protect our body from any microbe. وال blood platelets which help in ايه؟ healing wounds. وال plasma which is the yellow watery fluid اللي بتعمل ايه؟ transfer أو carry the digested food. يبقى احنا كده عرفنا ال structure of the circulatory system which is the heart, blood vessels and blood. طب تعالوا دلوقتي نفتكر أكتر الهارت. اتفقنا إن الهارت فيه 4 chambers. The upper chamber called atrium، فعندنا right atrium, left atrium. عندنا كمان right ventricle و left ventricle. طبعا right و left because of the wall that separates the heart into 2 sides. وعندنا upper و lower chambers بيبقى فيه في النص valve which allow blood to flow from the atrium to the ventricle and prevent it from returning back. وعرفنا ال circulation of the blood. ال blood أول حاجة بيعمل إيه؟ تعالوا كده نرسمها بالراحة. أول حاجة عندنا هنا the right atrium. أوكي يبقى دلوقتي هنا the blood enters to the right atrium لما يكون في right atrium flows to the right ventricle through the valve and then to the two lungs through the pulmonary artery. بعد كده يرجع تاني يدخل لل left atrium through the pulmonary veins. من ال left atrium ينزل لل left ventricle through the valve and then through the aorta to all the body parts. تمام. طيب تعالوا نكمل. heart beats اتفقنا ان number of heart beats at rest 70 beats per minute. وال number of heart beats بيزيد while exercising or during running. طب how to keep it healthy? We can keep it healthy by drink suitable amount of water, eat healthy food, eat more fruits and vegetables, avoid exposure to infections, avoid smoking and drink suitable amount of water زي ما قلنا. يبقى دلوقتي ازاي نقدر نحافظ عليها؟ ده كده lesson 1 which is the circulatory system. طب lesson 2 which is the excretion and human urinary system. excretion and human urinary system أول حاجة اتفقنا فيها إن الويستس اللي بتبقى موجودة نوعين. two types. solid wastes and excretory materials. Solid wastes, they are the indigested foods stored in the large intestine until they pass out of the body. لغاية ما تخرج ونتخلص منها. طيب والexcretory materials هي تعتبر the waste materials أو cell wastes, waste materials produced inside the body cells until our body gets rid of them ولازم نتخلص منهم. كانوا إيه هما ال three examples of the excretory materials? We have three examples. Carbon dioxide أو three أنواعهم ثلاثة. Carbon dioxide, nitrogenous wastes, and excess salt و excess water. Carbon dioxide بنتخلص منه through the two lungs. Nitrogenous wastes through the urinary system in the form of urine, and the excess salt و excess water عن طريق حاجتين يا إما السكان in the form of sweat يا إما urinary system in the form of urine. بعد كده إزاي نقدر أو الأول يعني إيه human urinary system؟ Human urinary system, it is the system that clarifies blood from the nitrogenous wastes, excess salt and excess water. طيب كان موجود فين؟ بصوا الصورة هنا موجود في الابdominal cavity ومكون من 3 حاجات kidneys, ureters and urinary bladder. طيب how to keep the urinary system healthy? We can keep it healthy by drinking suitable amount of water, especially in summer. Eat healthy balanced food that's low in salt. Keep away from irrigation canals and avoid urinating in them, and don't keep urine in the urinary bladder for long periods of time. كده نكون خلصنا unit number 2. تعالوا دلوقتي نروح لunit number 3 which is about the soil. أول lesson في unit 3 which is the soil components. soil components فالأول عرفنا يعني إيه soil بعد كده عرفنا الcomponents اللي موجودة في الsoil. طب تعالوا نفتكر يعني إيه soil. It's a thin non-compacted upper layer that cover the earth's crust. طيب مكون من إيه؟ What are the components of the soil? The soil is composed of humus, water, sand, clay, silt and gravel. طيب يعني إيه humus؟ Humus كان عبارة عن إيه؟ The decayed remains of plants and animals that's inside the soil, mixed in the soil. بتضيف nutrients للsoil, الhumus, and also the color of the humus, it has a dark color, a dark brown or black. بعد كده عرفنا the importance of the soil إن هي مهمة لكل living organisms. It's necessary for all living organisms as it's necessary for the plants. إن البلانت تحتاج ال soil to live and grow as it takes its nutrients and minerals from the soil. كمان مهمة للhuman والanimals لأن الhuman والanimals depend on plants, feed on plants. وآخر حاجة إن ال soil تعتبر home or shelter for some living organisms زي ال earthworms, زي ال ants, spiders. طيب ده كده ال importance of the soil. طيب what are the factors that causes soil erosion؟ اتفقنا إن هما 3 عبارة عن إيه؟ running water, winds and change of temperature. طيب بعد كده بعد ما عرفنا السويل erosion واتفقنا ان السويل erosion بتسبب breaking down للrocks into small pieces. طيب layers of the soil, we have 3 layers of the soil. نقدر من البيكتشر دي نشوفها بوضوح. عندنا top soil layer, lower soil layer and rocky layer. The top soil layer زي ما شايفين في البيكتشر هي فيها كل الحاجات تعتبر موجودة في التوب soil layer. موجود فيها ايه؟ It contains the roots of the plants, leaves of the plants, the earthworms أو some insects. فيها كمان الhumus and small pieces of rocks. طب lower soil layer. lower soil layer كل اللي احنا عايزين نعرفه عنها ان هي موجودة ايه؟ it lies beneath or under the top soil layer and it doesn't contain much humus. طب rocky, it consists of two parts. The upper part consists of species of rocks و lower part consists of solid rocks. واتفقنا ان في التوب soil layer فيها اغلب الحاجات او اغلب الروتس والليفز وكل حاجه موجوده في التوب soil layer. وعرفنا ايه عن ايه roots وعرفنا ليه موجوده in the top soil layer وعرفنا ال importance of the roots. ايه فايده الروتس؟ تعمل ايه؟ fix plants in the soil, absorb water and minerals from the soil. ده بالنسبه للبلانت، اهميتها للبلانت. طب ايه اهميه الروتس للسويل؟ بتخلي السويل ايه cohesive, prevents erosion from happening quickly and adds nutrients لما بيحصل لها decay after death forming humus. Leaves of plants, earthworms and some spiders and other insects كلهم after death they decay forming humus. واتفقنا ان ال earthworms وال insects بتعمل digging tunnels، تعمل tunnels that allow water and air to pass easily. وبكده نكون خلصنا lesson 1 واللي هو the soil components. طب تعالوا دلوقتي نتكلم عن lesson 2 which are the types and properties of the soil. هنفتكر دلوقتي انواع وال properties of the soil. اول حاجه ال types of the soil هما 3: sand, silt and clay. طيب تعالوا نفتكر definition of each one of them. Sand soil, it's composed mainly of sand particles and small amounts of clay and silt and rarely contains humus. What about silt soil? It's composed of mixture of equal amount of gravel, sand, clay and silt and more humus. وفيها humus كتير. طيب what about clay soil? Clay soil, it's composed mainly of clay, silt, small amounts of sand and humus. فيها clay وساند. clay وsilt هما اللي موجود كتير والساند والهيومس هو الموجود قليل. يبقى دلوقتي clay soil, it's composed mainly of clay, silt and small amounts of sand and humus. طب تعالوا دلوقتي نعرف the types of soil, the main components of each one of them. في الساند في main components sand particles. في السيلت mixture of gravel, sand, clay, silt and more humus لأن هي equal amount. لكن أكتر حاجة موجودة في الكلاي هي الكلاي والسيلت. the clay and silt particles. طيب دلوقتي the properties of the soil. هنعرف دلوقتي ال properties of the soil as a comparison between each one of them. the sand, the silt and clay. أول حاجة the color. The color of the sand is yellow, silt is gray, clay is dark. Number 2, the particle size of the sand is large, the silt is medium, and the clay is small. The compactness of the sand is weak, لكن الsilt medium or moderately compacted, والclay can highly compacted. نكمل properties. Property number 4, which is aeration and water absorption. Sand is well aerated soil, so it has the lowest absorption of water. لكن الsilt moderately aerated soil, so medium in absorption of water. And the clay is poorly aerated soil, so it has the highest absorption of water. طيب ايه تاني؟ Number 5, which is the drainage of water. بتعدي بسرعة ولا لأ؟ في الساند the fastest one, the silt medium, and the clay slowest. Number 6, which is the fertility. اتفقنا fertility depends on the amount of humus in the soil. يبقى في الساند rarely contains humus، يبقى هي ايه؟ low in the fertility. Silt soil highly fertile because it has high amounts of humus, and the clay medium or fertile. بعد كده soil and plants. Soil and plants هنفتكر دلوقتي the suitable soil for each one of them. The suitable plants for each one of the soil. The sand في potato, sweet potatoes, peanut and cactus. The silt زي strawberry, lemon, pomegranate and oranges. The clay زي cotton, rice, sugarcane, wheat and many other vegetable plants. تمام. يبقى دلوقتي تاني احنا دلوقتي عرفنا الفرق ما بين الساند والسيلت والكلاي according to their properties, according to the suitable plant, and according to the main components that found in it. عرفنا كمان كل definition كل واحدة فيهم للساند والسيلت والكلاي. وبكده نكون خلصنا lesson 2 في unit 3. احنا كده تاني عملنا revision على unit 1 واللي هو الفريكشن. افتكرنا يعني ايه friction، افتكرنا ايه هما ال advantages and disadvantages of the friction force اللي هو lesson 2 applications of the friction. unit 2 عن الcirculatory system والurinary system. circulatory system افتكرنا الفانكشن and the structure واللي هو مكون من heart, blood vessels, blood، وعرفنا ازاي نحافظ عليه كمان. والurinary system اتفقنا human urinary system عرفنا الاول ايه هما excretory materials carbon dioxide, nitrogenous wastes, excess salts و excess water، وعرفنا كل واحد بنتخلص منهم عن طريق ايه. وبعد كده اتكلمنا عن urinary system واتفقنا ان urinary system consists of 3 parts: kidneys, ureters and urinary bladder. واخر حاجه unit 3 which is the soil. lesson 1 فيه عباره عن soil components. افتكرنا الاول يعني ايه soil، عرفنا ال components of the soil. بعد كده افتكرنا soil erosion، ايه اللي بيسبب soil erosion: winds, running water and the change of temperature. وبعد كده اخر حاجه layers of the soil which are top soil layer, lower soil layer and the rocky soil layer. وبعد lesson 1 واللي هو ايه lesson 2 the types and properties of the soil. types and properties of the soil افتكرنا ال types which are sand, silt, clay. بعد كده properties of the soil خدناها كcomparison ما بين ال 3 types of soil. وكده نكون خلصنا النهارده revision، عملنا general revision على all the 3 units. عرفنا دلوقتي وافتكرنا كل lessons اللي عندنا in your curriculum. كده نكون خلصنا. Thank you for watching and goodbye.